Hey, it's Drace back with more Genshin. November 2025's Imaginarium Theater is out, featuring electro, hydro, and dendro elemental restrictions. Let's make a guide to reliably beat Lunar mode with the full 12 Stellas and collect those Arcana cards, because these are really cool and I want all of them. This guide has some big prerequisites and caveats. Simply put, Imaginarium Theater, especially Lunar Difficulty, is an endgame mode. It's expected that you have an endgame roster, a roster that's fully built and ready to tackle the more demanding content of the game. I'm sure you can gimmick it with a weaker roster and a bunch of resets, but your life and time is better spent with a stronger roster. We'll go over these prerequisites in more depth. Still, if you aren't ready for Lunar just yet, then this guide will still be helpful as the strategies still apply for the other difficulties. Let's take a look at the screen right here. Listen carefully. 90% of the entire battle of Imaginarium Theater takes place on this screen, the roster selection. The remaining 10% is the combat strategies in the rest of this video, but let's really dial in here on this screen. If you can't meet the prerequisites, you're going to have a bad time and your run will be exponentially harder. To even play Lunar mode, you need a minimum of 28 level 70 characters, but every additional character thereafter, up to 32, you get these bonuses right here. The max 32 character bonus is, in my opinion, substantial, and you should aim for it. Take note that level 70 for your entire roster is something you should be quietly working on in the background if you wish to clear future Lunar ITs.
Here's backup!
32 characters is a big ask, but there are some tricks that we can do to alleviate this restriction. Number 1, the Traveler should be level 70 and you can change them to any of the accepted elements. This lowers our Rex to 31. And 2, this is the big one. Find a whale friend. IT lets you borrow a character from any friend, so you need to scour the internet oceans for the biggest whale that you can find. For example, this is my whale friend. I don't know him, and I've only spoke to him once to thank him, but holy cow, is his help appreciated. Our Giga Leviathan friend here has full C6R5 level 100 characters. You look at this screen and you're just overwhelmed with power, because it really just means that any 2 acts of the 12 that we have to do are automatic easy Stella clears. And before you cry how hard it is to find such a whale, I need to spit some psychology here. It's actually not that hard to find a whale. It's not. You see, even though whales make up a small percentage of the player base, a whale is big and they want themselves to be known. They want to show off these kick-ass rosters that they have, and you'd be surprised how many will gladly share their rosters with you. It's a flex for them and it's a huge help for us. So I recommend going on Reddit, Twitter, or whatever your favorite social is, and you'll find your whale pretty easily. Just remember to thank them too. And when you do find your whale, here's a list of characters that I recommend for the accepted elements of this theater. I personally picked Varesa. I don't have her and she's a top 5 DPS in the game. At C6R5 level 100, she can solo axe by herself with minimal effort. She's that good.
Hero incoming!
And now we need only 30 characters. Within these characters, we need to identify 3 types for the theater: superstars, role players, and fodder. These are loose terminology categories that I made up. Don't let it restrict you and don't get butthurt if I think your favorite character is bad, but it helps to identify the key functions of our roster. Let's go over what these terms mean. The superstar is that character, the one that just solos an act because you're hyper invested in them and you love them so much. We get 1 superstar level character from our whale friend, but I believe that you should have at least 1 more if you have a mature Genshin account that's aiming to full Stella Lunar IT. For my roster, it's Arcana, who I have at C3R1. She's super strong and she can get any job done. Please have 1 superstar that you can rely on. Next are role players. These are the good characters that, in combination with other role players, will be able to clear an act. Remember, this is my roster. Some role players won't be good for you, or maybe other characters would serve you better. This is just a loose guideline. It's advised that you build and adequately equip all role players. They need to be battle ready. Level 0 artifacts are no good. Please give them proper sets and weapons. Here's a quick rundown of what I recommend for artifact sets, and if it helps, most of my information is cross-referenced from kachingmains.com. Pause the video here to catch all the information, because it's a lot. Now, of the role players, I want to highlight 1 character in particular for this theater, and it's Sethos. This guy is actually one of those 4 stars who can really do something. If you have a Sethos lying around, I would level him up a little bit because he has some serious firepower. His artifact is the common wandering troop, and even his weapon is a measly 3-star that everyone has. Super easy to build, and he's actually going to clear one of the more difficult acts for us. Big time role player. And then the fodder. These are the garbage characters that will not be doing much for us in this IT. They primarily exist to pad out our roster to get the, 4 out of 4 32 bonus, but despite their perceived uselessness, these characters will actually have a function as a vigor dump. We'll go over vigor stuff in the system mechanics, but take a good look at this roster screen. You basically win or lose IT right here. Let's build up our characters and win. Alrighty, here's our general strategy for the theater. There's a couple rules that we have to explain here. Number 1, save the best for last. Your best units will probably differ from mine, but our early less good units will be similar because we're going to use the trial characters for the initial acts. As the acts go on, unit deviation will naturally occur, but that's okay because our strongest units will brute force most mechanics. And finally, rule 2. It's all about vigor. Each character in our roster is granted 2 vigor stocks, and after a character is used in an act, a vigor stock is consumed. This boils down to only being allowed to use a character twice per run, and the big catch is that each act will force you to use a team comprised of 4 characters no matter what. So 4 characters are losing 1 stock per act. Everything revolves around the vigor system, and it's through its careful management that we will full Stella Lunar mode. Of course, as the character invites our RNG, this plan won't go exactly as is for you, but it's a general idea of what we're working towards. And throughout the video, we'll pull up the screen to cross-reference as we progress through the acts. Okay, let's go. For the first act, immediately nab any of the character invites or mystery caches that you see. We need to pad out our roster and prepare for future acts. We specifically want a Hydro sub DPS in preparation for Act 2. For the first act, you're looking for these Ruin Grader robots right here. I don't know the exact values, but they feel way easier than the other 2 battles and are weak enough for Cyno to get a Stella. So let's just choose the path of least resistance. The team we'll use is Cyno, Auroron, Barba, and Yao Yao. Remember our philosophy here. We're choosing the weaker trial characters first. Okay, the rotation starts with spamming skill and burst for each of the fodder characters, with the exception of ignoring Barba's healing burst. I want to make it clear here that I'm not a Cyno expert, but I did take the liberty of quickly reading his Kaching main's entry to relay a quick rundown of his combos and functions to get that Stella clear. We swapped to Cyno last because he's our on-fielder and he loses his infusion on swap. Cyno is a weird timing-based DPS. I don't have him, I'm just like learning on the fly here. He uses his burst to get an electro infusion, and while you're in the burst state, the exact normal string that you want to use is N4D, so 4 normals in total. After 3, you'll see a hook claw dash up. Continue for 1 more normal attack, which is a brief double swipe, and then dash cancel. This appears to be higher DPS than his other strings, and it's the key to victory here. If you're throwing his Zeus Thunderbolt, you pressed 1 too many normals. We don't want to see the Zeus Bolt. However, there's a bit more to his kit. While you're spamming the string, you need to keep an eye out on the screen for the Yu-Gi-Oh eye. As soon as you see it, you want to press the skill button. Don't miss this, even interrupt your combo if you have to. The Yu-Gi-Oh skill is very powerful and contributes a lot to his DPS. Missing this even once or twice will put you out of range for the Stella. If you can manage this unusual balancing act of the N4D dash cancel string with the Yu-Gi-Oh skill, you should have enough to clear the first act with the Stella. Let's all thank Cyno. I don't really like him as a character, but he did his job.
I'm used to it.
For Act 2, let's continue to nab up any characters and mystery caches. Whenever these show up, always take them. There's some okay ones like extra flowers or what have you, but what you're looking for is vigor, or anything that gives you more chances at obtaining vigor. This includes the mystery cache refreshes, or even the extra event, to potentially get another mystery cache. Vigor is game changing. If it lands on a role player or a superstar, you just auto win the entire theater, so keep an eye out for them. On the other hand, what can brick your run is this. You get a cast member something, but you'll not receive members after battles. This is bad. Watch out for this one, it's run resetting. Alright, now back to Act 2. We need to invite as many cast members as possible. In particular, however, you want to look for a Hydro sub DPS now, Yelan or Xingqiu, because either one of them is needed to back up Alhaitham. If you can't get a Hydro sub DPS, then we'll be burning a furina charge here. But Furina's super good, isn't that against the rules? Why use Furina now? It's too early. Well, we're going to game the system. Furina is a busted character. She's insanely good for clearing a lot of acts. Using her early in this specific case is actually okay, because we want her to be a vigor restoration target. A lot of the mystery caches restore vigor to characters that have already expended vigor, so we need to line up a great role player for this purpose. And Furina will be used here if you were unable to get a Hydro sub DPS for Alhaitham, effectively killing 2 birds with 1 stone. The fight we're choosing is the Natlan people. I've tested the other rooms and this one is just flat out easier, so let's not overextend ourselves and just pick the freebie. Alhaitham backed by a Hydro sub DPS plus Auroron is enough to clear. If you didn't get a Hydro sub DPS, then Alhaitham plus Furina plus 2 fodders is the other option. Once again, I'm no Alhaitham main, but I've consulted kachingmains.com for you, and I got my Stella. So here's how he works at the bare minimum. He has some sort of infusion that's tied to these mirrors that float around him. But that's too complicated, so you just need to know that his skill creates the infusion, and his burst also infuses and extends the duration of the infusion. He takes a lot of field time and loses the infusion on swap, so try to keep him on field until you see the green dendro numbers run out. As for his normal string that you want to loop, it's N3D. You'll know to dash cancel because he does 1 hit, 2, and then a roundhouse kick. Simply dash after the roundhouse and loop the string until the infusion runs out. And during all that, you toss in your burst. This should be a pretty smooth and easy Stella with this method. Again, there'll probably be some Alhaitham or Cyno mains telling me I'm doing this all wrong, and they'll be right, but this is all that's needed to get the Stella. If you're a main of those characters, feel free to add some corrections or additions in the comments. But as far as we're concerned, we got the Stella. On to the next fight, which is the Magnu Kenki. This guy is hard. Hard in the sense that we'll be using a lot of our good character vigor charges. We'll need Alhaitham again, this time with Furina, a Hydro sub DPS Yelan or XQ, and an Electro support sub DPS, Fischl or Auroron or Yonsan. Employ the same attack strategy with Alhaitham. Normal spam and dash cancelling after the roundhouse while infused. But the Kenki boss actually fights back, and he hits hard too. Yes, you could iframe dash the Kenki's attacks, yes you could do this, but that's a lot of work. Especially given Kenki's long windups but confusing telegraphs. We haven't sweated until now, and I don't plan on doing so. So here's a cheap trick to beat this guy no problem. You'll immediately notice that Kenki's attacks have huge radius with long wind-up frames. However, his attacks kind of bleed into another, so it's actually hard to iframe dash despite the long telegraphing. Instead of learning the timings, let's instead iframe it through bursts. That's right, in this fight, we just save our burst until we see a Kenki attack. Swap to the burst character and use it to bypass whatever the heck the Kenki is trying to do. You can be a tryhard and dash iframe, but this is so much easier, and it'll allow you to beat the Kenki with Alhaitham. If Kenki is going to have such long windups, then let's exploit it against them. Kenki down, Stella got. The next fight, Act 4, is an interesting one because it's consistent in all theaters, regardless of elemental restrictions. It's the Defense Monolith Act. Historically, this is what I call the Vigor Dump freebie act. This act was cheesed by simply using your lowest value Vigor units to win, thereby saving precious Vigor for your role players. It's why we were constantly looking for character invites on the event selection screen, is so we have fodder for this stage. This act is still cheesable, even with the new changes, so let's go through it. There are 3 options given to you for battles, but we are specifically looking for battles with a singular robot and 2 slimes. And there are 2 of these. If you manage to get Diona, then you choose the battle with the Hydro Slimes. The Hydro Slimes can be frozen in place with Diona's Cryo. If you didn't get Diona, any character with taunt abilities will do. You can use Auroron's Burst, Lynette's Burst, Tighnari's Skill, or even Mona's Skill. But I recommend Lynette because she's the weakest of the 4 and won't have much of an impact later on. The strat is simple. With your taunt character, make a team of the 3 weakest characters that you have. Do not use a good character here. All you have to do is employ your taunt and hit the enemies. For Lynette, her taunt is her Boggle Box Burst. The damage or elemental damage doesn't matter, so long as you are hitting the enemies, you will draw aggro. Before this patch, there weren't slimes in these battles, so it was way easier. You didn't even need a taunt character. And technically, you can get away without a taunt character still, but it could take you a bunch of resets. And this battle is relatively long too, so it's just best to use a taunt character now. Because Act 4 is kind of annoying, I like to ensure that I get to the next boss ASAP, so I can lock in the rewind checkpoint. Act 5's easiest battle in my opinion is these Ruin Greater bots. This version is different and harder than Act 1's, but you can use a variety of teams here. The weaker your DPS, the stronger the role players will have to be, and vice versa. You can use Kaching, Sethos, Alhaitham, etc. to clear this one. But I'm going to use the Giga C6 R5 Varesa I borrowed. Like Furina, I'm using this now to give me an out with Vigor, not because I need Varesa to beat this room. If you have Kaching available, she can be used as long as she's with Lauma or Furina for some like Hyperbloom Aggravate team. It's worth noting that Lauma is only needed for the Vishap boss, so she has 1 flex Vigor charge to use anytime you please. So you can use it here if you want. Here's Lauma with Kaching to take down the Act 5 bots. Kaching's loop is very easy. Use your skill to activate the infusion, and then it's just N1C, press normal, and then press charge attack and repeat. When her skill is up again, use it to refresh the electro infusion. Act 6 is the Vishap. He's a boss fight, so he's a little bit tricky. I recommend Lauma Hyperbloom for this, but beware that this fight takes some retries. Sometimes I clear it very fast, and sometimes I just fail completely. It is very volatile. What I can say is that because of the energy drain, avoid characters that are too reliant on their burst. This is likely your Hydro option, but thankfully the rest of the Hyperbloom team functions just fine on skill and normals. When the Hydro shield is up, switch to Lauma and spam normals to break it. And even though there's a drain on energy, if you're quick enough, you can swap into the character and press the burst button to get the burst anyways. Use these tricks to squeak by the Vishap and take that Stella. Act 7 is the Pyrolectors. It's at this time that you may or may not have the characters yet for the upcoming floors. If you don't, use the Arcana rooms as opportunities to refresh the events. Completing Arcana challenges also awards a character still, so it's additional opportunities to fill out the blanks in your roster for the upcoming fights. For Sethos to beat the Lectors, he needs characters like Fischl and Mona. Acts 8 and 9 specifically require the Flins, Cyno, ineffa Lunar Charged combo. So to make sure I get them all, I will now deploy my Giga Arlecchino to clear these Arcana acts. Arcana Challenge 1. You need to defeat these statue guys while your health is depleting very rapidly. In my case, I simply abused my overpowered Arlecchino with 3 nobody fodders to brute force this floor. My Arlecchino is C3R1, so I use all fodders for teammates. But if you have less cons, you can back her up with a VV Shred Lynette or a Noblesse Oblige TDDS Mona. If you're unfamiliar with Arlecchino, you need to use her skill to mark the enemies, and then collect it with a charge attack. From there, you're Pyro infused and you want to use N3D for single target. But if you have some enemies grouped up, you can opt for N5D to save stamina. Arlecchino has self-healing through her burst, so it's just a matter of brute forcing all the way through and bursting whenever the HP gets too low. Likewise for Arcana Challenge 2, it's also pure brute force. The perpetual mechanical array boss activates decoy bots when his life bar is low. Simply stop and pan the camera around until you can see the decoy robot with the life bar. Kill it and then you can proceed to defeat the PMA. After our little Arcana character farm detour is finished, let's return to the Pyrolectors who can be defeated by Sethos. Sethos is a deceptively powerful 4-star. Mine is only level 70 with an unleveled slingshot. With underleveled talents, Sethos is still able to beat these Lectors, which is very impressive performance from a 4-star. To play this, go through the entire team's skill burst rotation, and when you get to Sethos, he electro infuses off his burst. From there you can spam normals which will pierce the enemy. Sethos' infusion is powerful but short, so be prepared to rotate and gather some energy for his burst again. The Lectors don't go down that easily though, because at a low HP threshold, they'll activate a big pyro shield that needs to be depleted before they're killed. Mona and XQ can apply enough Hydro to take that shield out, so don't worry about the Hydro output. Instead, focus fire one Baptist until it's downed, and while it's deploying its pyro shield, you go to down the other one. When that one is deploying its pyro shield, you loop back to the initial one and kill it through its pyro shield. And obviously you finish the remaining Lector from there. Thank you, Sethos, your job is done. Acts 8 and 9 are the Flins rooms. We've been saving Flins all this time, so he's got to perform. If you have Flins here, this is just a cakewalk. Make sure before approaching these battles that you have Flins plus Cyno plus ineffa. These 3 together make up the nodkrai Lunar Charge core and will annihilate Acts 8 and 9 for us. The rotation starts with ineffa skill burst, your flex character's turn, and then Cyno skill burst. With Cyno's Hydro app active, Lunar Charged clouds will appear, and this is when Flynn's mini burst can achieve maximum power. Flins is a really easy character to use, so here's the quick breakdown. Activate his skill to enter his blue fire mode thing. Press his skill again while in this mode to transform your burst into the mini burst. When you have the energy for the mini burst, unleash it for a massive Dragoon jump for impressive nuke damage. The skill will have a 6-second cooldown until you can use it again to unleash one more Goon jump during the blue fire duration. In the downtime, you simply mash normals. After you've done 2 Goon jumps in the rotation, switch off Flins and restart the entire team rotation and repeat. This should be a massacre. The Flins premium team laughs at Knuckle Duckle in Act 9. With Act 9, you can choose any combat choice, even the elite one. They all fall before Flins, ineffa, and Cyno. And now we get to the final boss. I saved the last C6R5 Varesa charge just for this. But in addition, you need to accompany your Gigastar with 2 Hydro supports. I found Mona and XQ more than adequate for the beatdown that's about to occur. Mona and XQ break the Pyro Shield with their abilities, and then you lull Varesa the boss to death. It's what I saved her for, the strongest character for the final room. And we beat it, full Stella. Give me those elixirs, give me those rewards, and give me that card. I got Judgment for this one, it's pretty cool I guess. I think the big takeaway for IT Lunar Difficulty is this. You might have noticed something about this run. Where was the extra vigor? I think I got one earlier with Yao Yao who was largely unimpactful. That's right, in this run, I barely got Vigor and I didn't use it. You might have looked at these final floors and thought, well, I don't have this character or that character, I'm screwed. But that's not true. My run did not exploit the extra Vigor charges, but yours can. For those with a less than ideal roster, you want to take advantage of the Vigor that you get from mystery caches. And while it may take you some rewinds and resets, as long as that Vigor lands on a decent character, you can quite literally game the IT for 2 or more free act clears. Like here's an example. On another run, a Vigor recharge landed on my XQ, so I had him for 2 additional acts, which is so cheap and busted. It's why we burned Furina and Varesa charges earlier. These characters are so OP that if our extra Vigor so much as lands on them once, we just straight up win the IT. I want to reiterate that IT Lunar is an endgame mode. You're expected to have a big and powerful roster, but there's still an out if you don't, and that's Vigor resetting. Make use of it, it's honestly completely broken. That's it for this one, guys. If you liked the guide, toss me a sub and a like. I want to make more, and let me know in the comments if I missed anything or if you got more questions. If you're a Cyno or Alhaitham main, also let me know in the comments how badly I slandered them. I mean, I got the Stella right, so I couldn't be that off, was I? See you in the next Genshin video, guys. Bye-bye.